Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 365. Thank you for joining me today. Hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. We're going to get back into talking about some Jewish history today and to begin talking about the Babylonian captivity. I got a really good podcast for you today. We're going to get into as much as this as I can. I want to take you through the Babylonian captivity. I want to take you through the history of the Persians conquering the Babylonians, and the Persians then releasing the people of Judah, the Jews, from Babylon, allowing them to go back and rebuild their temple. And then I want to get into the Greek Empire, the empire of Alexander the Great, and what happens after Alexander the Great. The people there in the kingdom of Israel under the Seleucid Greek Empire, the Hellenistic period, and then as we get into in the next couple of weeks into the celebration of Hanukkah, I hope to get into the history of Hanukkah and start talking about the Maccabean Wars. That is the plan. So we're going to be covering a lot of history over the next couple of weeks, Jewish history. And we've been talking about it in a past few podcasts, and we got off track. And now we're going to get back into this history, explain to you that there were 13 tribes of Israel. And under King David ruled all 13 tribes. And then his son Solomon ruled over all 13 tribes. Solomon built the very first temple in Jerusalem. And after Solomon dies, the kingdom split into 10 tribes to the north under Jeroboam, and Solomon's son Rehoboam ruled over the 2 tribes to the south. The 2 tribes to the south were Benjamin and Judah. Jerusalem was in the territory of the tribe of Benjamin, but you had Benjamin and Judah to the south under King Rehoboam, who was Solomon's son, and then Jeroboam, he controlled the 10 kingdoms to the north, the kingdom of Israel. So they split into 2 different kingdoms. Kingdom of Israel to the north, kingdom of Judah to the south, 10 tribes to the north, 2 tribes to the south. Now, Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem, and the temple is where all the Jews had to go once a year during Yom Kippur, and they had to offer sacrifices for the remission of their sins. This is part of the Torah covenant. And when the kingdom split, Israel to the north and Judah to the south, King Jeroboam didn't want people from the north to go back down into Judah. He was afraid that they would unite with Judah, and they would come back and they would kill him, and that Rehoboam would be able to unite the kingdoms again if the people went down into Judah. So what Jeroboam did, he set up altars to false gods in the kingdom of Israel. And this is what angered God. I told you guys that the very first of the 10 commandments is you should have no other gods besides me, that Judaism is a monotheistic religion. Their God is a very jealous God, didn't want them worshiping any of the other pagan gods, which was very unique at this period of time because all of the people in the surrounding area had pantheons of God. Many of their pantheons went back to the pantheon of the Anunnaki, or in Egypt, you had the pantheon of the Egyptian gods, Ra, Set, and many gods. Many of the people in the surrounding area, they worship many different gods, Baal and what's the other? Marduk, and he's an Anunnaki god. Who are some of the other gods? One that I'm thinking of, Baal, and what's the other one that I'm thinking of? Anyway, they worship a bunch of gods. Can't believe I'm drawing blank on all these gods, but they worship a bunch of different gods. But God told his people, the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, they weren't Jewish at this point, they were Hebrew, the Hebrew people, to only worship one God, monotheistic. But when Jeroboam sets up altars to other gods in the kingdom of Israel, this angered God. We're going to talk about what happened to the kingdom of Israel when they started worshiping other gods. The kingdom of Judah started worshiping other gods as well. And that's what led to the Assyrian captivity. The Assyrian captivity was judgment. The Assyrians were the most powerful empire, Neo-Assyrian empire at this time, and they came down into both Judah and the kingdom of Israel, and they ended up conquering the 10 tribes to the north and scattering the 10 tribes to the north. And like I was telling you, this is the beginning of the scattering of the diaspora. The 10 tribes to the north are scattered throughout all of the world at this point. They go everywhere. They go as far east as India and China. They go into Africa. They go into Europe. They go everywhere. And then you still had some of these people from the kingdom of Israel. Also, when the Assyrians scatter them, some of them go down into Judah as well. Judah is left standing. The Assyrians do raid Judah, but they're not able to remove the king, and the king is left standing there in Judah. So the 10 tribes to the north are scattered: Dan, Ephraim, Gad, Manasseh, Asher, Naphtali. These 10 tribes to the north are scattered. And then you have Benjamin and Judah to the south. Now, again, some of these people from the 10 tribes, when they're scattered by the Assyrian captivity, some of these people come down into Judah, but Judah is left standing, and it's only Judah after the Assyrian captivity, and Judah is where the city of Jerusalem was. And then you had the Babylonian captivity that takes place about 100 years later. And this is, again, both of these. The Assyrian captivity that happens in around 700 BC is punishment. It is, and I'm going to show you this. We're going to go back into Deuteronomy and read what Moses says in the book of Deuteronomy, that this is punishment because they set up idols and they set up altars to other gods, and the Assyrian captivity was punishment for their idolatry, for them worshiping other gods. And the Babylonian captivity, when the Babylonian captivity happens 100 years later, it is punishment for them worshiping false gods, idol gods, gods other than the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They worship pagan gods, gods of the many tribes and nations of people around them. They started incorporating the worship of their gods and witchcraft and all of that stuff. And so the Assyrian captivity, which happens around 700 BC, and the scattering of the northern 10 tribes is punishment for them worshiping other gods. And then when the Babylonian captivity happens around 600 BC, this is punishment for them worshiping other gods, pagan gods, practicing witchcraft. So that's what happened. So we're going to get into talking about the Babylonian captivity in these next few podcasts, which is very important for many reasons. There's a lot that you need to understand about the Babylonian captivity that has relevance to today and the Jewish people of today. The Babylonian captivity has a lot of relevance. Most importantly, the Talmud. You have to understand the Talmud. You have to understand the Babylonian captivity, because the Talmud is the Babylonian Talmud. The Talmud and the traditions of the Talmud started while the people of Judah were captive in Babylon. So you're going to have to understand the Babylonian captivity to understand the origins of the Talmud. We'll read a little bit of this Wikipedia page here. It says the Talmud, study or learning, is the central text of rabbinic Judaism and the second in authority only to the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah. So the Talmud is like a study reference to the Torah. It's the central text of rabbinic Judaism, and you have to understand the Babylonian captivity to understand the Babylonian Talmud. So we're going to talk about all of that. This first clip that we're going to play gets into everything that I just briefly shared with you: the Babylonian captivity, the Assyrian captivity, the spreading of the diaspora, first by the Assyrian captivity and the spreading of the diaspora of the northern 10 tribes all over the world. And then what happens after that? This clip gets into it. Take a listen.
Jacob has 12 sons with 4 women: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. They form 12 tribes, which make up the totality of all Jews in 1000 BC.
You can see here,
They form 12 tribes, which make up the totality of all Jews in 1000 BC.
All right, so you can see here, these are how the tribes are separated. God separated them this way and told them which plot of land each tribe would get. It's the same thing we see here. There are 13 tribes, but you see them represented as 12 here. And I've explained to you that one tribe is not represented with the plot of land, and that is the tribe of Levi. The Levites were the priest. God commanded them to take care of all the priestly duties and the sacrifices, and everything that a priest does was done by Levites. And the Levites were scattered throughout all of the tribes. You had Levites throughout all of the tribes, but there's actually 13 tribes because Joseph who is one of the sons of Jacob, is not represented with a plot of land. Joseph's 2 sons, they both get a plot of land, so that makes 13 tribes. So you see 12 here, but the Levites are not the Levites are not represented with the plot of land. So there's actually 13, and that's very important.
Tribes, which make up the totality of all Jews in 1000 BC. They settle in present-day Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian Autonomous Territories, and in a small corner of present-day Turkey. 10 of the tribes joined to form the Kingdom of Israel. But the Jewish alliance is threatened by a major power. In the 8th century BC, Assyrian troops conquer the Kingdom of Israel. The inhabitants are removed and never return to their homes. Any traces of them are lost in history. Many devout Jews believe the descendants of the lost tribes are still living undiscovered somewhere in the world.
This is the northern 10
The Old
tribes.
Testament tells us that after the Exodus, some ventured out to distant lands to return home one day. This sets in motion a historical mystery, which baffles researchers to this day.
These tribes were displaced. They moved vast distances, and that process of migration, of losing the connection with a homeland, also suggests that there is a grain of truth in this.
This age-old myth still has political repercussions today. In the 1980s, Israel's military brings several thousand Ethiopian Jews to Israel, claiming they are descendants of the lost tribes.
These are the Beta Israel people.
Jewish communities in India are officially recognized as descendants of the tribes.
Jews in India.
Recently, an increasing number of groups have made this claim.
So the Latter-day Saints, you're saying many people across the world have made claims to be descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. Many people, the Black Hebrew Israelites, the Mormons, the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, tribes all over Africa, not only the Beta Israel, but tribes in sub-Saharan Africa, tribes that go from India to China to all people from all over the world have laid claims to say that they are descendants from the 10 tribes or the 13 tribes. Some of them perhaps are descendants and can trace their lineage back to the original 12 tribes, but some of them, their stories are ridiculous and they are just laying claims to these 12 tribes, but in reality, they don't have any connection to the 12 tribes, Latter-day Saints being one of them, but the Black Hebrew Israelites, I don't believe that they're descendants from the 12 tribes, but many people have laid and made claims all over the world, have made claims that they are descendants from the 10 tribes, 13 tribes, and they can lay claim to the inheritance of those tribes. Very important you understand that.
Jewish communities in India are officially recognized as descendants of the tribes. Recently, an increasing number of groups have made this claim. Some long to belong to the Jewish people. Others hope to live in prosperous Israel. Migration justified by the Old Testament. This is not the only story of displacement in Jewish history, which makes it all the more difficult to find the 10 lost tribes. Since the early Iron Age, Israelite tribes have lived in the region now known as Israel. Even back in 1000 BC, Jerusalem was already a place of significance. In 587 BC, Jerusalem is conquered by the Babylonians. Nebuchadnezzar II's troops destroy the first temple. Thousands of Jews are forced to leave their homes and are removed once again, this time in Babylonian captivity. It is only decades later that the descendants of the displaced Jews are able to return from Babylon to their homes. In 515 BC, a new temple is built in Jerusalem.
This is the second temple. So Nebuchadnezzar, when he takes the people of Judah back into Babylon in the Babylonian captivity, he destroys the first temple. He destroys the temple that Solomon built. And then when the Persians conquer Babylon and Cyrus the Great allows the people of Judah, the Jews, to leave Babylon and go back to Jerusalem, then they build the second temple, and then they build the second temple in the late 6th century.
In 515 BC, a new temple is built in Jerusalem. For more than 5 centuries, Jewish culture and religion flourish in the region. That is, until Jerusalem is conquered once again, and the Romans destroy the Second Temple in 70 AD. Thousands are forced to leave their homes. Soon, the majority of the Jewish population live outside Israel, in what is known as the diaspora. Jewish communities spring up all around the Roman Empire. Sephardic Jews settle in southern Europe and the Iberian Peninsula, while Ashkenazi Jews put down roots in Central and Eastern Europe. Mizrahi Jews can be found in the Middle East and North Africa. The exodus even extends to India, where the first Jewish communities also emerge. The route to America only opens towards the end of the 16th century. Initially, the colonial powers only allow Christian sailors, settlers, and missionaries to travel to the New World. The first Jewish communities are founded in Brazil, Suriname, and the Caribbean, then on the east coast of North America. In the early 20th century, Jewish communities can also be found in Argentina, southern Africa, and the east of Russia.
All right, so this is the spreading of the diaspora, and this is prophesied by Moses, which we're getting ready to read here in a moment. This is divine punishment. Not only does Moses prophesy that this is going to happen, that all of these 13 tribes are going to be scattered throughout the globe and to all of these different regions, but he tells them why they're going to be scattered to all of these different regions. And this, again, is what is known as the Jewish diaspora, that the spreading of these 13 tribes, the scattering is what the word is used in the Bible, scattering of these 13 tribes throughout all of the globe, as far east as India and China, as far north as Northern Europe, as far south as sub-Saharan Africa, into the New World. This is the scattering of the diaspora, and it is divine punishment because they worshiped idol gods. And this is what Moses tells them before they go into the land as a people, before they cross Jordan to conquer the land from the people of Canaan, who were there, who were the people that were the first people to be indigenous to that land, the Canaanites. Before they crossed the river Jordan to take possession of that land, Moses prophesies that you're going to go into the land. He warns them. He tells them, don't forget about your God. Don't start worshiping other gods. Don't start worshiping pagan gods. And he does that in the 4th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. He actually does it many times in the book of Deuteronomy. We're going to focus on this 4th chapter. And it says, obedience commanded. This is Moses commanding the obedience of the 12 tribes, 13 tribes before they cross over into the land. And it says, now Israel, hear the decrees and laws I'm about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live and may go and take possession of the land that the God of your ancestors has given you. Do not add to what I command you, and do not subtract it from it, but keep the commandments of the Lord your God that I give you. Don't add anything to it. Don't take anything away. You keep the commandments exactly. You have to be obedient, is what Moses is telling these people. You saw with your own eyes the law, what the Lord did at Baal Peor. The Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed Baal of Peor. From among you. So some of you, when we were in the wilderness, you were worshiping Baal, and the Lord destroyed those of you who were worshiping Baal. But all of you who held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. So God is setting the precedent that if you worship other gods, if you worship pagan deities, if you participate in witchcraft, he's going to destroy you, is what Moses is telling them. See, I've taught you decrees and laws of the Lord our God. My God commanded me so that you may follow them in the land you are entering to take possession of it. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all of these decrees and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. What other nation is so great that as to have their gods near them in the way the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him. And what other nation is so great as to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of laws I am setting before you today? Moses is telling them, you're going to be an example for all of the surrounding people. They're going to look at you and say, wow, your God is awesome, that your God is near you. He cares for you. He takes care of you. You keep all the commandments. You don't worship other gods. Then you're going to be an example to all of the world, all of the other nations that are going to look at you and say, wow, those Hebrews, they have a great God. It's what Moses is telling them. Only be careful. Watch yourselves closely that you do not forget the things of your eyes have seen and let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to your children after them. Remember the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, when he said to me, assemble the people before me and hear the words so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land, and may teach them to their children. So as long as you live in the land, you revere the Lord your God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain while it blazed with fire to the very heavens with black clouds and deep darkness. Then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire. You heard his voice. God didn't just speak to me, Moses, and tell me what to tell you. You heard the voice of God out of the fire is what Moses is telling them. You heard the sound of the words. You saw no form, but there was only a voice. He declared to you his covenant, the 10 commandments. What's the first commandment of the 10 commandments? No other gods, which he commanded you to follow, and then wrote them on 2 stone tablets. And the Lord, directed me. And the Lord directed me at that time to teach you the decrees and laws you are to follow in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. Idolatry forbidden. Verse 15. You saw no form of any kind on that day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore, watch yourselves very closely so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol and an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman or like an animal on the earth or a bird that flies in the air or like any creature that moves along the ground or any fish in the waters. Don't make any idols of anything. Don't make any idols of men, fish, birds, stars, moon. Don't make any idols. Is what Moses is telling them when you go into the land. And then when you look up to the sky and see the sun and see the moon and see the stars and the heavenly array, do not be enticed to bow down to them and to worship the things that the Lord your God has appropriated for all nations under the heavens. And why is Moses telling them? Because all of the surrounding areas, they did this. All of the surrounding tribes did this. The Egyptians did this. The Assyrians did this. Everyone did this. The Hittites did this. The Philistines did this. They all worshiped the sky and the stars and the sun and the Anunnaki pagan gods and the fish. They all had pantheons of God. But Moses is telling them, not you. When you go into the land and you possess the land, you only worship one God. You only worship the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and don't make any idols to them. But as for you, the Lord took you and brought you out of the iron smelting furnace of Egypt and to be a people of his inheritance as you now are. The Lord was angry. This is Moses telling them. The Lord was angry at me because of you, and he solemnly swore that I would not cross the Jordan and enter the good land that the Lord is giving you and your inheritance. So Moses is telling them, I'm not going to be able to cross the Jordan and go into the land with you. And Moses does not cross the Jordan and go into the land. Joshua is the one who leads the tribes across the Jordan and into the land. So Moses is telling them, God got angry at me, so I'm not going to go with you, but I'm warning you before you go. I will die in this land on this side of the Jordan. I will not cross the Jordan, but you are about to cross over and take possession of the good land. Be careful not to forget the covenant that the Lord your God has made with you. Do not make for yourselves in an idol in any form, anything that the Lord your God has forbidden. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. After you have had children and grandchildren and have lived in the land a long time, if you then become corrupt and make any kind of idol, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God and arousing his anger, I call the heavens and the earth as a witness against you this day that you will quickly perish from the land. Read that again. If you make any idols and do evil in the sight of the Lord your God and arouse his anger, I call the heavens and the earth as a witness against you this day that you will quickly perish from the land. Perish from the land. You will quickly perish from the land. There was a verse in Leviticus where he says this to them so many times. He repeats himself so many times. There's this passage in Leviticus that says, when you do this, when you start worshiping other gods and making idols to other gods, don't even plant. This is my favorite verse. Don't even plant food because your enemies are going to eat that food. You're not going to enjoy the land because you will quickly perish from the land. Yes, God gave them the land, but they were punished because they aroused God's anger. And he says that they will quickly perish from the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed. The Lord will scatter you. This is where I told you the word scattered, the scattering of the diaspora. First, the northern 10 tribes, and then the scattering of the tribe of Judah and Benjamin. The scattering of the diaspora is prophesied by Moses right here in the 4th chapter, 27th verse of Deuteronomy. The Lord will scatter you among the people, and only a few of you will survive among the nations to which the Lord will drive you. There you will worship man-made gods of wood and of stone, which cannot see or hear or eat or smell. But if from there you seek the Lord your God, you will find him if you seek him and with all your heart. And this is where God's saying that once you're scattered and you're in all of these different places and you're being persecuted in all of these different places. You go to Europe and you're being persecuted in Spain, persecuted in Germany, persecuted in Poland, persecuted in Assyria, persecuted in Babylon. When you go to all these different places, when God scatters you and you're going to be there and you're going to be worshiping these false gods, these gods made of wood and stone. And then at some point, you're going to realize, oh my God, what have I done? I've sinned against the God of my fathers. And then you're going to repent. And he says that, but from there, you will seek the Lord your God and will find him and seek him with all of your heart and with your soul. When you are in distress and all of these things have happened to you, then in those later days, you will return to the land of the Lord your God and obey him. For the Lord your God is merciful God, and he will not abandon or destroy you or forget the covenant with your ancestors, which he confirmed to them by oath. All right, so there's more here, but I don't have time to read all of that. So that's what the Assyrian captivity was. The Assyrian captivity and the scattering of the northern 10 tribes was prophesied by Moses because they were worshiping other gods, because they were worshiping pagan gods. They had set up these altars to these false gods, and God told them that you're going to arouse my anger. You're going to be scattered. You're going to be punished first by the Assyrian captivity, and then later with the Babylonian captivity. This is all divine punishment. Now, when the Assyrians come and they scatter the northern 10 tribes, they attempt to attack the southern 2 tribes and the kingdom of Judah as well. But the kingdom of Judah was fortified. The king, they weren't able to displace the king there in Judah. So basically the northern 10 tribes are scattered, but after the Assyrian captivity, the southern tribes, the kingdom of Judah, remains intact. The king at that time in Judah was a king by the name of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was the king in Judah when the Assyrians attacked the northern 10 tribes and scattered the northern 10 tribes. Hezekiah was a good king. He honored the God. He destroyed all of the pagan monuments, and he basically tried to restore the worship, because they started worshiping pagan gods and doing all the idol worship in the kingdom of Judah as well. But Hezekiah destroys all the pagan altars and actually tries to return the people in Judah back to the worship of the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But then after Hezekiah's reign, after Hezekiah dies, his son Manasseh becomes king. And Manasseh was a wicked, evil king. Manasseh resurrected the altars to the pagan gods. He did even more worship of idols and witchcraft and more worship of the idols, basically turning back from what his father had done, Hezekiah had done. So this is in the kingdom of Judah. After the northern 10 tribes are already scattered, you have Manasseh doing the exact same thing that they were doing in the northern 10 tribes and arousing God's anger, started worshiping pagan gods, started worshiping idols, setting up idols, started practicing witchcraft. And this is what Manasseh did. I have a clip here about Hezekiah and Manasseh. Take a listen.
King Manasseh of Judah was the son of King Hezekiah, one of the most righteous and devoted kings Judah ever had. Hezekiah had spearheaded a spiritual revival, passionately removing pagan altars, destroying idols, and reestablishing proper worship of Yahweh. His faithfulness was so profound that God intervened miraculously to save Judah from an Assyrian invasion, as recorded in 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 35. When Hezekiah died, his young son Manasseh took the throne at the tender age of 12. As stated in 2 Kings chapter 21, verse 1, Manasseh ruled Judah for 55 years. His mother, Hephzibah, is briefly mentioned, but her influence on him remains largely unknown. Given his youth, Manasseh probably relied on advisors and court officials during the early years of his reign. Unfortunately, instead of following his father's path of righteousness, he chose a path marked by extreme wickedness and idolatry. The difference between Hezekiah and Manasseh was stark. Where Hezekiah had passionately destroyed idols and pagan practices, Manasseh eagerly restored them. He turned away from God, embracing false deities and dark practices. His reign became infamous as one of the most corrupt and evil periods in Judah's history, surpassing even the wickedness of the pagan nations God had driven out before Israel. As 2 Kings, chapter 21, verse 2 recounts, Manasseh actively pursued evil, mirroring the detestable practices of the surrounding nations. He didn't merely tolerate idolatry. He promoted and intensified it. He rebuilt the high places his father had demolished, erected altars to Baal, and made an Asherah pole, a symbol of fertility worship.
An Asherah pole. What is an Asherah pole, people? We have an Asherah pole erected in our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. What we call the Egyptian obelisk or the Washington Monument is an Asherah pole. Just to let you know.
His father had demolished, erected altars to Baal, and made an Asherah pole, a symbol of fertility worship. According to 2 Kings chapter 21, verses 3-5, Manasseh even defiled the holy temple in Jerusalem.
Even the temple. Now this is, 300 years before Antiochus Epiphanes, the Greek monarch that comes down into the temple and defiles the temple. That this is the whole reason. Like I said, we're going to start talking about the celebration of Hanukkah and the Maccabees, the Maccabean revolts, the Maccabees coming and kicking the Greeks out of the temple, and Antiochus Epiphanes actually comes into the temple, and he sacrifices a pig on the altar in the temple, in the second temple. This is the first temple. This is the temple of Solomon that Manasseh, he actually brings all of these pagan idols into the temple, into Solomon's temple. This is centuries before Antiochus Epiphanes comes into the second temple and sacrifices a pig. So Manasseh, a Jewish king, a king of Judah, is defiling the temple of God.
3-5. Manasseh even defiled the holy temple in Jerusalem by setting up altars dedicated to pagan gods and the celestial bodies, including the sun, moon, and stars.
The exact same things that Moses warns them about in Deuteronomy chapter 4, which we just read, is what Manasseh does. He brings that filth into the temple, into Solomon's temple, this pagan idolatry into the temple. Manasseh does this.
And defiled the holy temple in Jerusalem by setting up altars dedicated to pagan gods and the celestial bodies, including the sun, moon, and stars. The desecration of God's holy temple was particularly offensive. This sacred space, designated exclusively for worshiping Yahweh, was turned into a site for pagan worship. Manasseh's actions went beyond mere rebellion. They signified a direct challenge and insult to God himself. Manasseh's sins reached horrific extremes, including the sacrifice of his child, as recorded in 2 Kings chapter 21, verse 6. He participated in the pagan practice of child sacrifice, a vile ritual explicitly condemned by God centuries earlier in Leviticus chapter 18, verse 21.
Child
He
sacrifice.
also embraced sorcery, divination, witchcraft, and necromancy, all strictly prohibited practices according to the law of Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 9 to 12.
So this is a Jewish king. This is a Jewish king defiling the Jewish temple, participating in child sacrifice, necromancy, witchcraft, pagan worship. This is all going on under the reign of Manasseh.
Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 9 to 12. Instead of seeking guidance from God, Manasseh deliberately sought counsel from witches and spiritists, immersing himself deeply into the occult. Perhaps his greatest insult to God was his decision to bring pagan worship into the very temple itself, according to 2 Chronicles chapter 33, verses 4 to 5. Manasseh built altars dedicated to the celestial bodies within the temple courts, spaces God had explicitly reserved for himself alone. By converting God's holy sanctuary into a center of idol worship, Manasseh committed an unprecedented act of defiance, worse than anything previous kings had dared. Under Manasseh's rule, Judah fell into moral decay far surpassing the surrounding pagan nations. As 2 Kings chapter...
Think about this. What Moses says here in Deuteronomy 4, he says that when you go over and you take the land, you are going to be an example for all of the other nations. If you keep the covenant and you don't worship pagan gods and you keep my commandments and only worship the God of your ancestors, you're going to be an example to all of the other nations. All the other nations are going to look at you and say how great those people, those Hebrew people are, and how great is the God of the Hebrew people. Wow, I mean, look at how awesome they are. They're going to be an example, is what Moses is going to tell it. It tells them that they're going to be, as long as they keep the covenant and don't worship other gods, don't practice witchcraft, don't do all the stuff that they started to do. But under Manasseh, they even became more wicked than the people around them. Instead of being an example for the other people, they were more wicked than the other tribes and the other kingdoms and other nations around them. They weren't an example. They were worse than any of these people who worship the pagan gods, even these people that weren't God's chosen people.
Under Manasseh's rule, Judah fell into moral decay far surpassing the surrounding pagan nations. As 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 9 notes, Manasseh led Judah into greater wickedness than even the Canaanite nations, which God had initially been removed from the land due to their detestable practices.
All right, so I think you get the point about Manasseh. Okay, so Manasseh ruled for 55 years. 55 years, Manasseh was king of Judah. And all of this pagan worship and all of this turning from the God of their ancestors, witchcraft, necromancy, child sacrifice, all this stuff happened and under Manasseh, and he was king for 55 years under Judah. Now, this is after the Assyrian captivity. The Babylonian captivity doesn't happen for 100 years after the Assyrian captivity. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is the same way that what happened in the northern 10 tribes and them worshiping false gods, and the Assyrians come down scattering the diaspora of the northern 10 tribes, the two tribes to the south in the kingdom of Judah, they even did worse under Manasseh, that they even did worse idolatry and pagan practices than what even the kingdom of Israel did. So, I mean, if God's going to judge the kingdom of Israel and use the Assyrians to judge the kingdom of Israel, then he has to judge the kingdom of Judah as well. And during the middle part of the reign of Manasseh, a ruler is raised up in the kingdom of Babylon. Babylon wasn't a kingdom at this time. It was a small province in the Assyrian Empire, because the Assyrians controlled everything. They controlled Babylon. They controlled all of the northern region of the Levant. They were the most powerful empire in that region. The Assyrians were. But at this time, Nabopolassar is a ruler that is raised up in Babylon. And Nabopolassar is the father of Nebuchadnezzar. Nabopolassar is named after Nabu. Nabu is an Anunnaki god, and he is the son of Marduk, and Marduk is the patron god of Babylon. So these are all very old Anunnaki gods that go back to the Akkadians, the Assyrians, the original Babylon under what's his name, Hammurabi. That's the original Babylon. These gods were worshipped by the Assyrians, by the Akkadians. These are the Anunnaki gods. Nabu is one of the Anunnaki gods. Nabu's father, Marduk, is one of the Anunnaki gods. So Nabopolassar is named after the god Nabu. And Nabopolassar, again, is the father of Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar, once Nabopolassar conquers the Assyrians, and the Assyrian Empire is basically engulfed by the Babylonian Empire, then Nebuchadnezzar takes over his father's kingdom, and Nebuchadnezzar II becomes the great king of Babylon, who destroys the kingdom of Judah and destroys the temple that is defiled and by Manasseh. Babylon comes in and they destroy the temple, and they take all the people that had any influence in the kingdom of Judah, take them back to Babylon. That's the Babylonian captivity. But let's just listen to this clip a little bit about Nabopolassar.
It was in the 7th century BC when Babylon was under the control of the powerful Assyrian Empire. But Nabopolassar, this heroic king, was not satisfied with the status quo. He believed that Babylon deserved its place as the capital of a great empire, and it was destined for him to make this dream a reality. Nabopolassar was born in the ancient city of Babylon, a city that was at the center of Mesopotamian civilization. Babylon was already a magnificent city, but it was oppressed and occupied by the Assyrians. Nabopolassar grew up under these harsh conditions, but he learned and planned in silence. He knew that Babylon deserved independence and freedom, and he believed that this could be achieved through his efforts. Nabopolassar began his political career as a local governor under Assyrian rule, but he was always striving to expand his influence. With his cunning and bravery, he succeeded in building a strong army and communicating with nearby tribes and clans to gain their support in achieving his ultimate goal, liberating Babylon from Assyrian control. In 626 BC, Nabopolassar decided that the time had come to act. He declared a rebellion against the Assyrian Empire and began mobilizing his forces. He knew that the confrontation would not be easy, as the Assyrians were known for their military strength and brutality, but Nabopolassar had more than just military power.
So when Nabopolassar, when he starts to challenge the Assyrians, this is in the middle of Manasseh's reign in Judah. So Manasseh is the king of Judah and doing all the wicked things that we just talked about that he was doing in Judah. This is the middle of Manasseh's reign when Nabopolassar starts to challenge the Assyrians.
He possessed the will and belief in his ability to achieve victory. Nabopolassar led his army in a series of battles against the Assyrians, and after years of struggle and resistance, he succeeded in liberating Babylon. This historic moment marked the beginning of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which would later become one of the greatest empires in ancient history. After liberating Babylon, Nabopolassar did not stop at this victory alone. He began expanding Babylon's influence and controlling the surrounding territories. He unified the Babylonian cities under his banner and started rebuilding what the wars had destroyed. Within a few years, Babylon once again became a significant cultural, economic, and cultural center in the ancient Middle East. Nabopolassar was not just a military leader, he was also a wise statesman. He worked on strengthening relationships with neighboring regions, especially with Media, another powerful kingdom that was a rival to the Assyrians.
Those are the Medes.
Nabopolassar succeeded in forging an alliance with the Medes, and thanks to this alliance, he was able to eliminate the Assyrian Empire for good in the Battle of Nineveh in 612 BC. Nabopolassar understood the importance of securing succession to ensure the continuity of the Babylonian Empire he had built. Therefore, he educated and trained his eldest son, Nebuchadnezzar, to be the next leader.
So Nebuchadnezzar, the son of Nabopolassar, Nabopolassar basically conquers the Assyrians in the battle at Nineveh. They take over the Assyrians, and then they become the dominant empire in the region. The Babylonians become the dominant empire in the region. Then Nabopolassar dies, and then his son Nebuchadnezzar II comes to power, and he expands the power of the Babylonian Empire. All of that is done under Nebuchadnezzar. I have a little bit more here that on Nabopolassar that I want you to listen to. Take a listen. And we know all this. There's script. We know all of this because there's cuneiform script and tablets that we can read. We know exactly what happened. We know exactly that this history, not only from the Bible, we know that this history is true from archaeological artifacts where we can read the cuneiform text and see all of this that took place. I just want you to take a listen to some of this.
So, father of Nebuchadnezzar II, as I mentioned, initial uprising against Sin-Sharishkun, and some strategic timing of the revolt. He revolts against the Assyrians. There's some fluctuations in the military campaigns. They go back and forth. There's a number of them, with the complete destruction of the Assyrian Empire and the rise of the Neo-Babylonian Empire in its place under Nabopolassar. So that's really his importance. Here's his name in cuneiform if you want to write that down. If you have an inkling to write some cuneiform, here's what it looks like on a tablet, this cuneiform. This is the letter of Sin-Sharishkun, a letter that he wrote to Nabopolassar. Kind of fell apart, number of pieces, but they've been able to fit them together. And again, this stuff can be read. And it speaks of the initial uprising against this particular Assyrian ruler. It's the turning point in the conflict following the death of both Ashurbanipal and Kandalanu. decisive.
Those are Assyrian kings, Ashurbanipal and Dalanu.
Pushes up against the Assyrians by the Babylonians under Nabopolassar, and he tries to make an alliance with the Medes under Cyaxares, and it speaks of the importance of the securing border, the importance of securing border between the Assyrians and the Babylonians, the help of the Medes. So here's another tablet that speaks of Nabopolassar, the chronicles of the years 608 to 605 BC. So we know what happened during those years from this particular tablet in the British Museum. He sacks Ashur with the help of the Medes in 614. And then we have the fall of Nineveh in 612 BC by the Medes and the Babylonians, with the destruction of Nimrud and other Assyrian cities, and the brutality of the Medes versus the Babylonians.
All right, I don't know what's going on there. But so that's Nabopolassar and how he conquered the Assyrians. And that's the decline of the Neo-Assyrian Empire and the rise of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Nabopolassar again dies, leaves the Babylonian Empire to his son Nebuchadnezzar II, and then Nebuchadnezzar II expands the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And Nebuchadnezzar II is the king who eventually comes into Judah, and he conquers Judah, destroys Solomon's temple, and then he's the one who takes the people of Judah back into Babylon. And that is what is known as the Babylonian captivity. Here's a little bit about Nebuchadnezzar, and we're almost done. We'll pick this up on Friday.
Nebuchadnezzar II, the eldest son of King Nabopolassar, was born in 642 BC and was likely named after his grandfather, who was a governor in the city of Uruk under the rule of King Ashurbanipal. The name Nebuchadnezzar is derived from his traditional Akkadian name, Nabukadori Ushur, which translates to, "O Nabu, protect my firstborn son." Nabu being the Mesopotamian patron god of scribes, literacy and wisdom, who gained great prominence during the first millennium BC after being identified as the son of the most powerful god of the Babylonian pantheon, Marduk. As crown prince of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar took part in his father's campaign to conquer the city of Haran in 609 BC, where the final Assyrian ruler, Ashur-uballit II, had gathered the remainder of his forces. The Battle of Haran led to the ultimate defeat of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Subsequently, Nebuchadnezzar was promoted and began taking charge of troops alongside his father. Together, they led an army into a mountainous region north of Assyria in 607 BC. After his father returned to Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar continued to lead independent operations, serving as commander-in-chief and securing major victories that solidified Babylon's status as the new superpower in the region. The Egyptian pharaoh at the time, Necho II, attempted to restore the fallen Neo-Assyrian Empire by leading a large army into former Assyrian territories and establishing a base of operations in the city of Carchemish. Nebuchadnezzar faced Necho and his forces in 605 BC at the Battle of Carchemish and dealt the Egyptians a devastating defeat.
So Nebuchadnezzar, and Nabopolassar, his father, they defeat the Assyrians, they defeat the Egyptians, they defeat all of the superpowers. The Neo-Babylonian Empire becomes the dominant power in the region, the Neo-Babylonian Empire.
Nebuchadnezzar's victory over the Egyptians at Carchemish echoed throughout history, appearing in several later accounts, such as the Book of Jeremiah and the Book of Kings in the Hebrew Bible. When King Nabopolassar died in July of 605 BC, Nebuchadnezzar rushed back home to Babylon to stake his claim to the throne before his younger brother, Nabu-shum-lishir, had a chance to steal it. Nabu-shum-lishir was never mentioned in documents again after this point, leading historians to speculate that he probably led an unsuccessful revolt that resulted in his demise. Upon becoming ruler, Nebuchadnezzar spoke directly to the patron god of Babylon in his inaugural speech, saying, O merciful Marduk, may the house that I have built endure forever. May I be satiated with its splendor, attain old age therein, with abundant offspring, and receive tribute of the kings of all regions, from all mankind. After burying his father, Nebuchadnezzar returned to the front lines in Syria to continue expanding what was now his empire. In 604 BC, Nebuchadnezzar and his men conquered the city of Ashkelon in the Levant and proceeded to capture its king, plunder its treasures, and leave it in ruins. Over the next 3 years, other states, including the Kingdom of Judah, submitted to the surging Babylonian Empire, and, with the help of Greek mercenaries, the empire was extended into Palestine. Progress was halted abruptly in 601 BC, when Nebuchadnezzar chose to march against Egypt. Despite having defeated the Egyptians at Carchemish, the attempted invasion of Egypt was a complete and utter failure. There were heavy casualties on both sides, but the failure resulted in a loss of confidence for the Babylonians. Vassal states started to doubt the power of Babylon, referring to the infant empire as a paper tiger. At home, Babylonians began to disobey Nebuchadnezzar's direct orders and even organized rebellions against him. Turning his attention away from Egypt and back towards the Levant, Nebuchadnezzar led his army into the Syrian desert in 599 BC, attacking and raiding Arabs along the way. 1 year later, the Babylonians captured the city of Jerusalem in a campaign against the Kingdom of Judah.
All right, so that's what we're going to pick up talking about in the next podcast, the campaign against Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, conquering Judah, and initiating what is known as the Babylonian captivity. Again, this is divine punishment because of the people in Judah forgetting the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, worshiping idol gods and pagan gods, and that's what initiates the Babylonian captivity. Again, we'll pick this back up in the next podcast. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.